EduwebTV
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera kepada semua calon STPM 2021. Apa khabar? Seperti biasa, anda sedang menonton Sukses STPM 2021 bersama saya Syamira Nazir. Hari ini kita akan sama-sama belajar dan fokus pada mata pelajaran Matematik M Kertas 3. Tapi sebelum itu, ayo kita berkenalan dengan seorang guru yang sangat hebat dan berpengalaman. Nak tahu siapa beliau? Jom kita saksikan Profil Guru. Wah, itulah cikgu kita untuk hari ini, Cikgu Zainaria. Assalamualaikum, Cikgu.
Assalamualaikum, Mira.
Apa khabar, Cikgu?
Alhamdulillah, sihat.
Ya Allah, Cikgu manis senyumannya hari ini, Cikgu. Baik, Cikgu, hari ini Cikgu akan fokuskan bagi Matematik M Kertas 3.
Ya, betul.
Apa M tu sebenarnya, Cikgu?
M stands for management.
Oh, management.
Yeah.
Matematik management untuk Kertas 3 untuk hari ini, Cikgu. Baik, Cikgu. Dan untuk hari ini, apa yang Cikgu nak fokuskan kepada pelajar-pelajar di rumah sana?
Okay, today we'll be doing a revision on the STPM Mathematics M Paper 3. Okay, and we will be doing by solving questions from the Ulangan 3 STPM 2014.
Okay.
So make sure the students get hold of the paper.
Okey, Cikgu. Kalau macam tu, Cikgu dah bersedia?
Sudah.
Dan saya yakin murid-murid di rumah pun pastinya sudah tak sabar nak belajar lagi untuk hari ini. Jadi silakan, Cikgu.
Okay, thank you, Mira.
Welcome.
Okay. So I'm Cikgu Zainaria binti Abdullah. Okay. I'm your mathematics M teacher for today. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a revision by solving solutions from the STPM Ulangan 3 2014. Okay, let's start by getting to know the format of paper 3. Okay, so notice that all the questions are subjective and bilingual. Students are required to answer in 1 hour 30 minutes, and they are allowed to answer either in English or BM or both. Okay, consists of 2 sections. Okay, section A 45 marks, 6 questions, answer all the 6 questions, compulsory. And section B 15 marks, there are 2 questions, but students must need to answer only 1 question. Okay, I repeat, 1 question. So my advice is, when you do your revision, when you practice answering, try to answer roughly about 8 to 10 minutes per question for section A and 20 minutes for section B. This will leave you about 10 minutes to check your answers. So all the questions are based from the 6 topics, okay? And in section 1, each question will be asked from each topic. And for section B, any 2 from the 6 topics, okay? Next, students must also get to know the formula given in the question paper. Okay, notice that only formula from topic 1, this is topic 1, and topic 5 are given in the question paper. Okay, so students must be able to identify the symbol used and also identify this formula not given in the question paper. Okay, now the first topic that we need to revise is the linear programming. So always check for the instruction here. Use graphical method, meaning that you have to use a graph paper. Determine means you have to find all the values of x and y such that it maximizes the z function. This is the objective function. And look at the constraint. There are equal signs, means that all the lines drawn are bold lines. So this is the graph paper. Make sure you draw on the graph paper. Choose a suitable scale such that it covers half of the graph paper. So draw the lines, draw the visible region, shade, You can shade or do lines. And then identify the objective function. Okay, such line is very important that you must state on the graph paper. And then shift the line, see any integer points that give you the maximum z functions. We have 3 points there. Conclude your answer. Okay, most students did not conclude the answer. Then, besides graphical method, students can also must know also the simplex method. Okay, so simplex methods here, for example, give a reason, fine. So make sure you know how to give the reason. Here, just use the word since. Okay, so indicate that there is a negative entry in row 1 under variable x1. Okay, so how to get the optimal solution? Find the pivot element. So how to do the pivoting? We divide all the elements in the pivot row with the pivot elements and try to get zeros in the pivot column. So use the row operation there. Okay, tada! We have the optimal solutions. Okay,
Yes.
so how do we read this table? So we look at columns with 0 and 1. So we have zeros and 1 only. So from here we can conclude, okay, 1, x1 is 1, x2 is 1, s1 is 2, and p is 11. So the one without zeros and 1, we must two conditions, 0 and 1. So the values are 0. Okay, this is how we apply the simplex methods. Okay, so read the question. What is the instruction? Use graphical or use simplex. Okay, I think that's all for the first part.
Maksudnya, cikgu, bagi setiap jawapan yang pelajar lakukan, mereka haruslah conclude.
Yes.
Untuk jawapan mereka.
Yeah.
Sebab mungkin ada setengah pelajar yang terlupa untuk buat conclusion di situ, kan cikgu? Untuk rumuskan di situ.
Yeah.
Selepas ini saya nak tanya kepada cikgu, bagaimanakah tips untuk pelajar dapat skor bagi kertas ini? Tapi kita berhenti berehat seketika, kita kembali selepas ini. Jangan ke mana-mana.
DidikTV KPM. DidikTV KPM.
Baik pelajar semua, kita kembali dalam Sukses STPM 2021. Masih lagi bersama dengan Mira dan juga cikgu kita yang sangat hebat hari ini, Cikgu Zai, di mana kita akan fokuskan mata pelajaran Matematik M ataupun Matematik Management kertas 3. Baiklah cikgu, saya nak tanya kepada cikgu, apa kesalahan yang murid selalu lakukan, terutama sekali dalam matematik kertas 3 ni cikgu?
Okay, most mistakes made by students are they do not follow the instructions and requirements in the question. So banyak tak ikut arahan. So kita tahu kan Mira, bila tak ikut arahan what happen? Kita kena denda kan. That's what happen lah dalam periksa. Mereka kena denda.
Yap. Okey, dan untuk segmen ini cikgu akan fokuskan bagi interest, annuity and depreciation. Betul cikgu?
Yes.
Silakan cikgu.
Okay, let's start. Okay, so the next topic is interest, annuity and depreciation. Like I mentioned, okay, when you read the question, please interpret the information, extract all the information and translate it into mathematical sentence. Okay, we have here a car. The original book value is 150,000 and the book value after 8 years is 50,000. Okay, all right. And then the instruction, okay, here mostly students are unable to identify because it's given implicitly, okay, the flat rate depreciation method and use the reducing balance depreciation method. So students, you must use what is asked in the question, okay. So what must you do? What is the task here? The task is to find the difference in the book value after 4 years. And the requirement, the answer must be given correct to the nearest 100 ringgit. Okay, so let's look at the solution. Okay, like I said, translate all the information into mathematical sentence. Okay, for flat rate depreciation, the annual depreciation is constant every year. So we must find the annual depreciation. It's very simple. Okay, just using 150,000 minus 50,000 over 8. So the annual depreciation is roughly RM 12,500. So after 4 years, this is the book value. Okay, notice that when you state the answer, do not forget the RM. You must write the RM because this is ringgit. This is not just numbers, okay? Right, since flat rate is also known as the linear slope depreciation, we can use the maths formula, finding the slope. But here, I'm using a different method whereby I define my X as the book value of the car after 4 years, okay? So using the gradient method, okay, so I'm leaving my answer X in 100,000. tadi say I must state my RM. Here, why RM is not stated? Because RM X was defined earlier in the solution. So if you define your variable X, you do not have to state RM. RM is very important in paper 3. Okay, next. For reducing balance depreciation method, you have to find the rate of the reducing balance, rate of depreciation. So we have two formulas here. Either use that formula given in the textbook, or you can use the book value for reduced balance depreciation. Okay, this is very important. In working, do not run off the value. Run off to at least 4 significant figures, or else you will lose mark because of error in accuracy. Okay, tak tepat. So, jawapan kurang tepat. And then after 4 years, this is the formula that we're going to use. So, X, again, kalau tak nak buat RM pun tak apa, because RM is already defined earlier, but to be safe, you write down your RM. Okay, this is ringgit and cent. So, make sure you run off to 2 decimal places. Ada pelajar buat 0.3. 0.3, what does it mean? Nothing. Okay, so 29 cents. So, find the difference. Okay, now, why if you leave your answer like this, 0 marks? Because the question states, run off to the nearest 100 ringgit. So, this is what happened in the exam. Ramai tak follow the instruction, as what I mentioned earlier. Okay? Okay, now, other than depreciation, for this topic, we have interest. Okay, we have simple interest and compound interest. The formula here is not given in the question paper. So students must know when to use the two type of interest. Then we have the annuity. Okay, future value annuity, the formula is given in the paper. So future value normally we apply when you invest, when we do saving, ya, bila kita buat kata orang simpanan. So the interest is gain, kita untung because interest is gain. So this is a formula, and then we must know the monthly payment into the sinking funds for future obligation. Next, we have the present value. Normally, present value ni is synonym with loan borrowed. So when the word there, taking money, loan borrowed, you have to use this formula. Hence, when kita ambil loan, what happen? Interest is charged. So this is the formula. So we must also know the monthly payments to amortize our loan. Okay, so this is on annuity. Okay, students must also know the effective rate. So this is given in the question. It's always calculated once a year. But what is the purpose? To compare different investment. Okay, for example, kalau kita nak ambil loan here, kita nak invest in a bank. So here the bank give us two different banks give two different interest rate. Okay, the first one 9% compounded monthly, the other one 9.5% compounded every 4 months. So do not just say, oh, A, I'll choose A. Why? You must show the working. So this is the working using effective rates. Okay, so notice that although number one tu nampak compounded monthly tu banyak, but actually the second one gives a better return. And take note, when interest rate, final answer must be in percentage form, bukan decimal. Sebab the word here is rate. Okay, so itu yang saya kata students will lose mark because tak follow instruction. Okay, next topic. This is also on financial, cost, revenue and profit. Okay, ini panjang. So when you read the question, always look closely here. The demand supply equations are given as Q in terms of P. Normally P in terms of Q. So ramai this year that year trick question. So again, what is asked? Sketch on the same axis, determine equilibrium price, quantity, calculate. So these are the task word yang kita kena follow. So look at the solution. Okay, identify the graph. So when you sketch, okay, so linear function graph means straight line graph. Root function graph means the root curve. Okay, so notice that to get the full mark, students, you must label everything. Okay, axis labeled correctly, the graph labeled correctly, the points are shown clearly on the axis. Kena ya. Without this, you lose again 1 mark. Ya. Sebab D1 means everything must be correct. Okay? And then what happened at equilibrium point? We know that quantity demanded is the same as quantity supplied. So we equate the two equations. Solving. Okay, one thing nice about STPM, you don't have to show the factorization. SPM kena, SPM tak perlu. You can use the calculator to find P and Q. Right. Mira, do you think the students will get full answer here? Full mark, I mean.
I don't think so. Saya tak rasa.
Sebab dia kena conclude the answer. So how do you conclude? You have to write equilibrium price RM 641.67 cent again ya, unit RM. Equilibrium quantity because they kata in 100,000, sorry, in 1,000, so you have to times 1,000. So must be in integer form. Okay. Okay, to find the consumer surplus, producer surplus, you can use the graph that you have sketched in A. There's one thing nice about STPM, they guide you. Okay, the graph sketched can be used to identify where is the area of CS, consumer surplus, PS, producer surplus. So from the graph, CS is always the area that is above the equilibrium price. PS is always the area below the equilibrium price. Okay. Okay. So how to get CS? Look at the area. If you remember Form 5, we learned integration. You can use integration of the demand equation, or you can find the area half times base times height. Okay. So again, unit RM must be stated. Okay, now, although the question does not ask you to interpret, but students must also know how to interpret or must know what does this value mean. Ramai pelajar tak tahu apa maksud CS tu. So we can say the saving gain by the consumers paying the equilibrium price of RM 641.67 is RM 1,566.68 cent. Okay, tak perlu ikut word by word as long as the word here gain ada by consumer is tu. Maknanya keuntungan pada consumer bila dia beli pada harga lebih daripada equilibrium price. Similarly, producer surplus, okay, notice that is this area here under the supply curve below the equilibrium price. So we have to integrate. Tak ada pilihan, you have to integrate. Okay, the integral with respect to P. Okay, notice the limits here. 250 to 641.67. Substitute the limit, hence you get the producer surplus. Again, student, you must know what does it mean. Okay, so interpret. This time, producer means the gain to the producer. Nampak tak? Dia bagi clue. The gain ataupun extra income ataupun added income ataupun the saving. Asalkan it has the same meaning. Okay, to the producer. Producer dia buat apa? Produce and supply. Okay, at the equilibrium price of the thing just now is RM 5,167.60 cent. Okay, see the difference between consumer and producer. Okay, other students, sebab they are always used to P in terms of Q, so they convert it, tak salah, but you do extra work. It's not wrong, but you do extra work. So although the graphing is simple, sketching of the graph is simple because we have quadratic equation graph, but make sure you convert it correctly. Okay. Then, to find the equilibrium point, we will first get the quantity sebab we have P in terms of Q, and then followed by equilibrium price. Okay, consumer surplus is still the same, half time base time height. But producer surplus, remember, it's always below the equilibrium line. So notice that we have to find the area of the rectangle minus the area of the under the curve. So tedious. Okay, although look like 2 steps, actually I miss a lot of steps. Yes, I miss a lot of steps. So I advise kalau boleh jangan tukarlah the format of the question kecuali you have no choice. Okay, right. Okay, now these are the concepts that students must acquire. Okay, just now the question asked us on this concept. So there are so many concepts that students must master. Okay. So the point for functions. Okay. Okay. Here are some tips when answering function. First tip, when you want to find functions from their marginal functions. For example, here, we want to find the revenue function. So most students will forget to find the constant of integration. So you must show, although it's simple. Some say, like easy ma. My student always say that, mama, yeah? Easy ma. No, although it's easy, you have to show. And then most students will forget to show the subject of the function. You have to show. So please take note of this. And then I will give you tips how to interpret the marginal values. Okay, kita banyak, we have here, for example, the marginal revenue. So when you interpret, when you interpret, make sure you have the production level, approximate change in revenue by selling one more unit of the product is RM485, meaning that you must know what it means, ya. Apa maksud 485 tu? Some will say the revenue obtained by selling the 2,501st unit of product is RM485. Ataupun you can do in mathematical sentence, RM2501 minus, revenue producing 2,501 unit minus the revenue obtained in producing 2,500 units is RM485. Saya cuma nak highlight the beza when you produce one unit, okay? Okay, these are the tips on how to interpret. Semua sama. The sentences are all the same, except the difference is total cost, approximate revenue, profit gain, and per unit product. Senang nak remember. Instead of saying by selling and producing, just say per unit product. But be careful, students. What happened is RMY is negative. This one is positive, yeah. So kalau negative, we say total cost reduced by RMY per unit product. Revenue decreased by RMY per unit product. Tapi profit loss by RMY sebab dia negative. Okay? So this is how we interpret. And then when we find the minimum cost or maximum revenue profit, here for example, the question say minimize. Okay, most students will forget to show the testing for the minimum or maximum problem. So please show. How do you show? By finding the double derivative. Okay. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Cikgu, maksudnya cikgu bagi setiap cost, revenue ataupun profit tu, kalaulah jawapan tu dalam berbentuk negatif, murid kena tahu nak gunakan kata kunci bagaimana. Betul kan cikgu? Decrease dan juga loss. Betul cikgu. Itu pun main peranan yang penting juga. Risau kalau anda kata terlupa ataupun murid ataupun pelajar kurang cakna tentang penggunaan ayat itu boleh menyebabkan kekurangan markah.
Yes, that's right.
Okey cikgu, kita berhenti berehat seketika. Pelajar di luar sana jangan ke mana-mana. Kita kembali selepas ini untuk lebih banyak lagi perkongsian daripada Cikgu Zai. Jangan ke mana-mana.
DidikTV KPM. DidikTV KPM.
Baik, pelajar-pelajar STPM 2021 yang sedang menonton sekarang, kembali kita dalam Sukses 2021 untuk STPM. Dan hari ini kita akan belajar bagi mata pelajaran Matematik M kertas 3. Dan sekarang cikgu bersama dengan saya, Cikgu Zai, cikgu nak fokuskan apa pula untuk segmen kali ini? Silakan cikgu.
More on the decision mathematics component. So we'll be looking at critical path analysis, inventory models.
Okey. Ada dua kali ni cikgu nak fokuskan.
Yes.
Silakan cikgu.
Okay, right. Okay, for the critical path analysis, so this is the question. Okay, normally they will give you a table to show the activities and the duration. Okay, so make sure you know how to read the table. Okay, looks complicated, but the tip is I always say to my student, activity. Okay, we start with activity A, B. C is after A. Instead of saying that the preceding activity of C is A, we always say C is after A, D is after A, E is after B, D, and so forth. This is how we read the table. Okay, what is the instruction? Again, when you read the question, look at the instruction. So here you have to draw an AON. I repeat AON here, not AOA. So what is required? Activities, duration, early start time, later start time must be indicated clearly in the AON. And then part B, the task word is state, means that you don't have to show working. Okay, state the critical path, minimum completion time. Okay, let's look at the solution. Okay, notice that there are 8 activities just now, 8, 8 ya. So make sure there are 8 notes. Okay, so make sure you know how to find the earliest start time. Okay, here we have 2 entering activities, 7 plus 6, 13, or 15 plus 7, 22. We choose the longest duration. The early start time is, if we have 2 possibilities, choose the longest duration. Next, the latest start time. We have 2 possibilities here for activity B, okay? So 15 minus 8, 7, or 11 minus 8, 3. We choose the shortest duration. Remember the tips, okay? To get the earliest start time, latest start time. And please, students, do not forget to do the key. Most students will lose marks sebab lupa nak draw the key. Must indicate, because the question says just now, indicate the activity, duration, early start time, latest start time clearly. Okay, and then use arrows, no lines. Kalau buat lines, habis, ya. Students will lose a lot of marks, okay, to represent the precedent relation. Okay, next, to find the critical part, students must find the critical activities. How to find the critical activities? Here, the 2 syarat is given there. Early start time is the same as latest start time, or total float is 0. Okay, look at the AON. So from the AON, see the one with the same values. So those are the critical activities. But how you write the critical part is A-D-E-G. Do not use comma. Kalau comma, habis. Okay. So how to get the minimum completion time? Look at the end note. This is called the end note. So the minimum completion time is 33 days. Okay. So senang ya, AON is very simple. Okay, and then you can check by, just now we say, C is after A, D is after A. Check whether the preceding activities are correctly drawn on the AON. Okay. Besides AON, students must know how to construct AOA. Okay, AOA network means activity on arc. The activity is written on the arc. Okay, in other words, of arrow is arc. Okay, so you can also check, betul tak? Yes, you can check C and D is after A. Yeah, here A, C, D. Okay, and then again, the start time sama saja. Kita buat forward pass. Okay, this is called forward pass. We have 2 entering activity for early start time for G. We have 13, 22. Choose the longest. And here, latest start time for activity B. Okay, we have 2 also backward pass. Ya, tadi forward, so backward means kita deduct. So 15 minus 0, 15. 21 minus 10, 11. Again, you choose the shortest duration. Okay, again, key. Jangan lupa key. And then to find arrows again to show the activities. Make sure you know the difference between AOA and AON. Okay, critical activity is the same. Total float must be 0. So identify the arcs that is critical. Okay, so critical part is A-D-E-G. So your minimum completion time here is 33 days. Okay, besides AON, AOA, students must know how to construct Gantt chart and resource histogram. So for Gantt chart, this is one way of constructing, whereby the activities are on the left and the number of workers are on top of the bars and the total number of workers are below. This is the resource histogram. So my tip is to draw the resource histogram, do on the graph paper. Okay, now besides this, they might ask you to find the minimum number of worker or minimum time to complete a project. For example, here, 2017, 5B and C. Okay. The instruction here is that find the least number of people required to complete the project in minimum time. Justify your answer. Don't forget that. Part B, project to be completed with the least possible number of people. Least possible means here the question 3. Ramai students tak tahu berapa least possible tu actually given, stated in the question 3. So ramai tak boleh jawab ni ya. 3 marks tu, ramai tak boleh jawab. So what is the number of days for which the project completion is delayed? Justify your answer again. So this is the solution. Okay, ni example when I said this is another way of drawing the Gantt chart. Here the critical activities are drawn on one line, one bar, okay? And the activities are written on the bars and the number of workers are also written on the bars, okay? So find the total number of workers. So for each day, you add up all the workers. So from the table below there, the least number of people is 5. Okay, this is the justification. As indicated in the total number of people, that is your justification. So this step here is very important, okay, to justify your answer. So what must you do in order to get the least number of people? 3. So you have there 4, 5, you have to change to 3. So you delay D by 2 days. But we have a total float of 1. So when you delay D, you can apply 1 float, meaning that you delay by 1 day. So conclude. Okay, project is delayed by 1 day. Itu yang diminta. Justification ni lah. Because we want to reduce to 3 people, so we have to delay D by 2 days, hence delay the completion time to 14 days. Ingat ni Mira, the word to and by itu very important, okay? Okay, then we have inventory models. Again, this is very lengthy, but it's very simple. Again, read, interpret, and translate. But most important for inventory models, okay, we have to look at the unit of time used. Make sure they are the same. So sini, constant weekly demand and cost per week. So we selamat sini. Students are safe. They don't have to change to days or to months or to years. Then we translate. Here, the weekly demand D, we use the word D. Holding costs are 15%, so 0.15 times the unit price. Okay, and then the back order cost, the ordering cost, semua translate into mathematical sentence. So the task word is determine, meaning that you have to show working. Kena tunjuk working. Okay, that's the key word. So present all the information in mathematical sentence. Okay, that's why I said here must be stated clearly. So kalau per week tu you lupa tulis tak apa, but make sure you show how you get the 0.75, 1.25 clearly. Kena tunjuk, okay? So present all the information in mathematical symbol. And then my advice is to write down the formula so that you substitute the values correctly. And students can leave the answer either in decimal value or round off to 894 or 895. Tak perlu write all 3, just choose 1, okay? So you can write either one, okay? Jangan buang masa, okay? Right, then for back order, okay? So substitute the correct values again, either decimal values, round off to 335 or 336 bottles. Okay, besides this, students must, okay, these are all the formulas that students must know. Notice that the first one are given in the question paper, the rest tak ada. So you have to memorize and know how to use. And normally they will ask you which policy is the best, EOQ or EOQ with back order. So we have to find the total inventory cost. So when finding the total inventory cost, Mira, okay, sometimes in the question they include the cost of the price per unit. Hence, the annual purchasing cost must be included. Ramai yang terlupa. Okay, so must be included. And make sure they understand all this symbol means. Yeah. So saya takkan terang, nanti masa tak cukup.
Okay.
Okay, right. This is important. Besides that, students must also know the inventory graph for basic EOQ and must know what does it mean here. By the cycle time 2.4 means that every 2.4 months, the inventory will be replenished. Yeah? Dia akan naik balik, dia akan naik balik. And then understand what does reorder means. So they interpret. So we interpret that an order should be placed when there are 833 units remaining. This is how you interpret sebab dia tanya. So reorder point, please make sure the final answer must be in integer. Okay. So this is how lead time from the graph you can tell the lead time is 1 day. But 1.4 plus 1 is 2.4. Okay, tunjuk sekali saja for the lead time. Tak perlu buat untuk every point. Okay, that is EOQ. Now, this is EOQ with back order. So far, okay, soalan ni ada pernah tanya. Okay, but not sketching lah. But something related to back order, the T1 and T2. Okay, make sure you understand what all this symbol means. Okay, Q is inventory level. T, okay, T is very important. You must identify the units. This is days. Okay, so here for back order is very important that you must know the maximum inventory. How do you get it? The Q, EOQ minus the shortage. So you get the maximum inventory. So when the maximum inventory plus the back order will give you the EOQ. Okay. So again here, this is how you interpret for EOQ with back order for the reorder point. And order should be placed when there are 135 units of back orders. So notice that here when we say back order, the values are negative. Okay, the values are negative. So here the lead time pun we can tell is 5 days because we add up 27.7 plus 5, we have 32.7. Okay, so what does T1, T2 means? T1 means the inventory on hand, the duration of time, the inventory yang kita ada, and T2 means the stock out occurs. Maksudnya masa tu kita punya quantity stock out shortages occurs. So make sure you understand the formula, remember the formula and know how to sketch the graph of the inventories.
Okey. Cikgu, maksudnya untuk jawapan ni kan cikgu, pelajar perlu rumuskan juga ke cikgu?
Kalau dia minta what does interpret the reorder point.
Okey.
Kalau dia tak interpret tak apa. Kalau
Baik.
dia kata just sketch the graph, this is it only.
Sajalah. Okey. Bergantung kepada soalan juga
yes,
cikgu.
They have to read the question carefully.
Yeah.
Kalau dijawab tak apa, tapi time is wasted.
Yes, betul tu. Okey, cikgu, kita berhenti berehat seketika cikgu. Kita kembali selepas ini. Pelajar di rumah jangan ke mana-mana.
DidikTV KPM. DidikTV KPM.
Baik, pelajar semua, kembali kita dalam Sukses STPM 2021. Di segmen kali ini, Cikgu Zai akan berkongsi pula cara ataupun teknik untuk menjawab bagi game teori. Apa pula yang dimasukkan dengan game teori tu, Cikgu? Silakan.
Yes. Okay, this topic is actually very interesting sebab nama pun game theory.
Yes.
So students when boleh dengar game theory, dia ingat kita akan buat satu permainan.
Yeah.
Actually no. Actually it's a game whereby you make the best decision whether you follow strategy tu atau tidak. But it's very interesting. Okay, it's a new topic, so some young teachers find it interesting, but it involves probability. Okay, right. So we have here example the question on game theory. So again, look at the task word. Okay, the task word is to determine play safe strategy. So they ask us play safe. So jangan buat kerja-kerja lebih. We just want play safe. Okay, and value of the game only 5 marks. Okay. So we have 2 plays P and Q. So since determine, so you have to show working. Working is simple. Just find the values for the row minimum, and find the maximum of the minimum value, which is 1. And then find the column maximum for each column. Okay, find the minimum values of the max value for the column maximum, which is 1. So notice that we have 1, 1, meaning that we have a saddle point. So normally for play safe, okay, the role player will always choose the maximum strategy, okay, which is, okay, where does this one lies? P3. And player Q will always choose the minimax strategy, 1. So where does this one lies? Q3. So we just write player P plays strategy P3 and player Q plays strategy Q3. Okay, conclude, remember, conclude your answer. So value of the game is value of the saddle point. Value of the saddle point ni lah yang sama, 1. Okay. Okay, now students, please take note. Besides play safe strategy, we have the dominance and mix strategy. Here example 2013. Determine the optimal strategy for each player. Okay, we have a 2x3 payoff matrix. Okay, right. Question does not state mixed strategy. So you need to determine what strategy to be used. So how to do that? We find again the row minimum The column maximum, find the minimax, find the maximum, sama tak? Tak sama, hence there's no saddle point. Okay? So what do we do when there's no saddle point? So we apply mixed strategy. So game is unstable. Okay, so there's so many methods, but I'll be showing you the easiest way is to apply dominant strategy. Here, column 3 is the dominant strategy because it has the highest value compared to the other two columns. So we have to delete it to reduce the payoff matrix to 2 by 2. Then I will use the formula method. I advise students to remember and use the formula method because it's fast, save time. So here straight away, when you identify your A, B, C, D, substitute, you get P. P is the probability for player P to choose the strategy. And then Q, probability for player Q to choose. Okay. So how do you write the optimal strategies? We can write in coordinate form. Or some students, they suka ayat, but I do not encourage to do in sentences. It's very lengthy. Let me say this. In ayat, player P will choose strategy 1 with probability of 2/5 and strategy 2 with probability 3/5. So the best way is to do it in coordinate form. Okay, now, player Q. Which one is correct? This or this? So, of course, the second one is correct because we delete column 3. It means that Q will never play strategy 3. They will never play, meaning play maksud tu choose lah. Dia takkan pilih strategy 3 because the probability is 0. So he takkan pilih, okay? So this is the best that he must choose. Choose strategy 1 with a probability of 2/5 and strategy 2 with a probability of 3/5. Okay, this is using dominance and formula. There is another method known as the graphical method. Okay, for graphical method, you have to assign probabilities to player P and Q. So as always, okay, P will have the advantage, P 1 minus P. But since Q have 3 strategies, we write them as Q1, Q2, Q3. So to do the graphical method, you have to find the expected payoff. So how to get the expected payoff? When player Q plays strategy 1, ni, okay, so negative 1 times P plus 2 times 1 minus P. So what do you call it? You add up, then you write in simple form. So and then for strategy 2, okay, the expected payoff when Q play strategy Q, and when Q plays strategy 3, this is the expected payoff for player P. Okay, what do we do next after finding the expected payoff? We draw the graph, okay, of the expected payoff for player P. So line 1 just now represent the first expected payoff. Line 2 represent the second expected payoff. Line 3 represent the third expected payoff. Okay, now, role player will always try to maximize his minimum payoff. Maximize his minimum payoff. So P is the value that peaks at the bottom. Okay, that peaks at the bottom. So how to get P? P is the point of intersection between the two lines Y1 and Y2. So P is 2/5. Okay, since column, now how do I know that column 3 is the dominant column? Because the line Y3 does not pass through the optimal point. So we delete column 3. So when you delete column 3, so we have the reduced payoff matrix 2 by 2. So that's the purpose why we need to reduce, so that it's easy for us to find the optimal strategy. Okay, next. Okay, I'm showing you another method. Instead of the formula method, this is called the equalizing method. But for equalizing method, you have to find the expected payoff. Here is loss for player Q. So if P plays strategy 1, okay, notice that saya tak ubah the negative sign because it's loss. Kalau saya ubah the negative sign, it's gain. So for easy calculation, I will not change the negative sign. Tak tulis loss pun tak apa, but make sure you understand what you are writing, okay? So this is the expected payoff for Q. And then this for strategy 2, this is expected payoff for Q. So you equalize it. This is what I call equalizing method, hence you get Q. So that's Q1. So Q2 is actually 1 minus Q1. So this is the same answer just now lah. But make sure here you write down Q3 is 0, okay? Because we know that probability, the maximum value is 1, okay?
Okay.
Right. Right. So let us conclude how to determine the optimal strategy. First, you need to check whether there is a saddle point. So if there is a saddle point, for saddle point means row min must be the same as the min max, okay? Sorry, the minimum max must be the same as max min. So when the saddle point exists, what happens? Game is stable. So when game is stable, we always play the play safe strategy. That's why we say always play the play safe strategy. So meaning that row player will always choose the maximum strategy, the column player will choose minimax strategy. If there's no saddle point, what do? Game is unstable, so we apply mixed strategy. There are 3 ways of finding. Either you use equalizing method, formula method, or graphical method. And encourage to apply the dominant strategy to reduce to a 2 by 2 is easier. Okay, so this is actually the summary of how to determine the optimal strategy. Okay. Short and simple, and it's very interesting. Students always get marks for this, okay? Right. Now, let me share tips how to get a successful examination day, okay? How to get a successful examination day. So, before the exam day, okay, malam sebelum exam. So, sleep early, okay? Eat well, no lepaking, no game, no kedai mamak. Sleep early because you need to be fresh and healthy for your exam day, right? So when you're already entering the examination hall, after you recite your prayers, okay, so when you get the question paper, please read the questions carefully. As I mentioned, identify the instruction, the requirement, the task word to help you answer easily and to save time. Especially for section B, we have to, okay, do not waste time by answering the 2. So you have to read these 2 questions first. Okay, choose the one that you are confident with, or in other words, you can answer the most. Okay, so and forget about the next question because examiner will only mark 1.
Okay.
So sometimes students they submit 2, we only mark 1. Okay, because the instruction already say
answer 1.
Okay, so follow the instruction.
Okay.
And then to save time, please read at the marks allocated by the questions. Sebab the marks allocated is a fair indication of how much time to spend. Macam tadi 5 marks kan, meaning that the working is not difficult. Kalau 7 marks, 9 marks, meaning that is very lengthy. So this is to help you to save time. Okay. Then when you answer, okay, please answer according to the instruction. Why? Because it helps you to identify the method that must be used. Answer according to the instruction because requirement because it helps you to write down the answer as being asked in the question. And don't forget this, show all working, okay, except for the task word state, tak perlu working. And present your work clearly and neatly. Saya kata neatly, bukan cantik, just neatly, so that the examiner can see your flow of thoughts. Okay?
Sedap mata memandang lah cikgu.
Tambah lagi sekarang ni kan examiner dah ramai berumur kan. So bila dia present nicely, kita akan rasa lembut sakit hati kita orang.
Okay.
Okay, right. So my advice is to start off with a new sheet of answer sheet. So that senang dia nak susun nanti. Okay, next. Be calm. Jangan panic. If you tak boleh jawab first part or more parts of the ni, be calm. Because apa? Sometimes the question contain information to help you to do the other parts. So read again. InsyaAllah ada information. Tiba-tiba, boom, oh ada idea nak jawab. Okay, so be calm. Do not despair. Okay, but most importantly, when you enter the examination hall, studylah dulu. Be prepared. Jangan last minute study. Okay, so the best preparation is to working through the past or trial papers. Okay, lastly, Mira, I would like to wish all the STPM students good luck do your best in Mathematics M Paper 3.
Yes, good luck. Selamat manja jaya diucapkan kepada semua pelajar STPM, khususnya yang mengambil kertas Matematik M untuk kertas 3 ini. Semoga kejayaan milik anda semua.
Yes.
Kita berakhir di sini, Cikgu. Terima
Ya.
kasih banyak atas perkongsian ilmu pada hari ini. Kita jumpa lagi di episod akan datang hanya di Sukses STPM 2021. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera.